Select Board was late on their recordings too.
Yeah.
I
Is it
tried
the
to
one-
attend. I tried to to attend the Select Board to get intelligence on the transfers, but they deferred acting on them until after they did a bunch of one-day licenses. So, so they may be a little behind. So take your time on our other agenda items. Questions from the public on items not on the agenda? Not seeing any members of the public. I'm assuming there are no questions. Item 3, approval of minutes from the meeting of May 25th, 2021. Has everybody had a chance to see the minutes as with the edits as circulated by George earlier today?
I would move approval.
Any further discussion? I'll accept a motion for approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
Okay, so we come to vote. Julie?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Daveline?
Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
Victor?
Aye.
Libby? You're on mute, Libby. There we
Aye.
go. Aaron Kelly?
Aye.
Andy, you're on mute. You're on mute.
Aye.
I
I
use
have to
that.
un-I and abstain because I was not at that meeting and I was just spacing out while we were voting. I got all
Okay.
excited.
I remembered that somebody was not there, but I didn't remember who it was. So George, you will duly note that abstention.
I will.
Okay. And then annually at this last meeting of the fiscal year, we authorized the incoming chair, namely Julie, to approve reserve fund transfer requests, interdepartmental transfer requests, and intradepartmental transfer requests not to exceed $10,000 between July 1st, 2021 and July 15th, 2021. And I guess it's up, Sue would know this better, but up until July 15th, municipalities are completing their year-end balancing of all their accounts. And to the extent that it becomes necessary to have a transfer to achieve that laudable goal, we have historically authorized the chair so as to obviate the need for the calling of an emergency AdCom meeting to undertake such an approval. So that's the purpose behind this authorization. Any questions, comment, or discussion? I don't believe I had to exercise that authority last year, and I don't think, Victor, you had to exercise it the
No,
previous.
I did. There were two, I don't remember what they were. There was two small things. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank on what they were, but yeah, there were two minor things.
Yeah,
Well, they're
and that's,
obviously under $10,000.
and that's what they typically are to the extent the issue comes up. So if there's no further discussion or comment, I'd accept a motion to extend that authorization to Julie.
So moved.
Is there a
Second.
second?
Second.
We come to vote. Julie?
Aye.
Dave?
Aye.
Tina?
Aye.
George?
Aye.
Kristen?
Aye.
Daveline?
Aye.
Brenda?
Aye.
Victor?
Aye.
Libby?
Aye.
Erin?
Aye.
And Andy?
Aye.
And then we come to liaison reports. I understand that Kristen and Daveline, you may be commenting on the HAHT.
Mhm. I can talk to that. So we met last week, I think it was, or it was 2 weeks ago. So just a couple of updates. They did elect Amy Farrell as the new chair for the coming year, with Tim White leaving. So Amy will be doing that. For 499 Cushing Street, they're still looking at that property to decide if they can even develop on it. They were thinking that they could purchase pieces of the land. There was different parcels, but the owner wants to sell as one parcel. So now they need to see how to actually access that land from Cushing Street, if they're going to need an easement. So there's a lot of moving pieces with that. So more to come on that. The housing plan is in its final stages with that. So they're going to share that with us probably August, September, before their report to the Board of Selectmen. So they'll let us know once that's ready and share it with us. And I think the only other bigger one was Rhodes Circle, which was set to be completed by tomorrow, and which really needed to be completed by tomorrow in order for them to get the state grants that they were looking for. All that paperwork needed to be in and the bills paid by tomorrow to be eligible for those grants. So hopefully they're meeting that by tomorrow. So I think that was it.
Is Tim just leaving as chair, or is he
Yeah.
departing from?
Yeah,
the
he's
com-
just leaving as chair. He's going to remain on the committee.
Okay, well, that's good news.
And Al Chambers announced he was leaving from the committee. So he's decided to put his efforts elsewhere. And one other thing, the housing plan was presented to the planning board the Monday before, and I attended that meeting. And so just a couple of things I thought people would be interested in. The planning board was very receptive to the housing plan. The master plan and the housing plan are fairly consistent, which is a really good thing. And the four things that they all agreed they should be working on were, first of all, community education about the need for affordable housing in Hingham. This number gets tossed around a lot, that there are 1,005 uncontested units of affordable housing, which puts us, I think it's at 11.37%, but actually only 349 of those are actually affordable. So people don't often understand that in something like the Cove or Avalon, all of the units get counted as affordable, even though only 25% of them are. So there's a need to do that. And they've talked about having forums, perhaps having an affordable housing summit, using public access TV, doing more on the website. So they had some ideas. They talked about that. They're also trying to figure out how to have a more secure funding source. Most of the funding, of course, comes from CPC, but that funding over the years of CPC has been right at 10%, which is the minimum required. And so there's talk of how they might get more funding, both from CPC, but also other kinds of grants or donations or fundraising that might take place. They've also talked about how to pursue greater housing diversity and affordable in terms of this issue of rental units versus ownership units, and which is the better course to go. And then finally, a concern about preservation strategies. And I think this really went to the issue of how do you make sure that affordable units that you have that maybe aren't on the inventory, but they're affordable in that they're not $800,000 houses. How can you assure those stay as possible houses for people to buy at more reasonable prices, as opposed to being bought and knocked down, basically. So that was the report. But I thought it was a really productive meeting between the planning board and the Affordable Housing Trust of how they would work together.
I keep seeing comments in our public media about the Old Ship Parish House. Is that in any way active on the HAHT agenda?
It is on each agenda in executive session. So Kristen and I have not been party to that. I will say, I think from other parts of my life, I can say there continue to be discussions between the parish and the Affordable Housing Trust about purchasing that property and how it might be used. So
All right.
to
Well,
expand
I'm
Lincoln School.
just kind of interested in that. I don't want any revelations about private matters in executive session.
Yeah, well, we're not in executive session, so I don't have any.
Nope. Well, we don't have really anything substantive to say anyway,
Yeah,
just
so,
that it's a subject of discussion.
yeah.
And I believe we have a liaison report on HDIC from Brenda.
Yeah, that's also me. So HDIC has, first off, I just thought people would be interested. They, after their several years of existence, they have approved a statement of policies and procedures as to how they might function. So it's a good thing, I think.
Could you remind everybody what HDIC stands for? Because
Sure.
I think this is actually the first liaison report that AdCom has received about HDIC because it hasn't been especially active.
Yeah, it's the Hingham Development and Industrial Commission. And it existed for several years, and then it was kind of not really in existence, and then it was reauthorized, I guess, in one sense. Under the master plan, there's a big role for HDIC to play. And so they have become much more focused in their work and their meetings. And so I think, having been their liaison for 2 years, I can see there actually is huge movement towards doing things, I guess is how I'll put it. And part of that's from the master plan. And so one of the reasons I wanted to, and so they spend a lot of time thinking about and talking about South Hingham and development of South Hingham. I think I did report on this. They took a position with the plan. They took a position and presented to the planning board that they were opposed to the Amazon use in South Hingham. So I think that's maybe the one thing I have reported. But they're trying to bring in lots of different interest groups to sort of figure out about South Hingham, and particularly how to work with Rockland and Norwell and other communities that have some interest in that. But the thing I wanted particularly to report to is, coming out of their last meeting, they have formed subcommittees to work on 3 warrant articles for next year. And so I thought these would be particularly important for us. One is to expand the HDIC to 15 members. It's currently, I believe it's a 7-member board, which is what town meeting authorized. It says on the website that it's 15. I think that's because the state statute allows for 15. And they had a pretty robust debate among their members. One who argued that if it said 15 on the website, they could have 15 members. But town council disabused them of that notion, that they actually would have to go back to town meeting for the expansion. That the fact that it was incorrect on the website did not allow them to use that, I guess. So that's one. Secondly, they believe there should be a bylaw in Hingham about short-term rentals. And so they're forming a subcommittee to look at that issue. And then finally, they want to propose to the planning board a new South Hingham overlay district. So those are the 3 warrant articles they are planning to work on. So,
This is Dave Lynn.
yes.
I was just curious, the article around short-term rentals, is that a pro or con position?
I think it's probably going to be a movement to not allow them or to restrict them. But this is set up at least to study, but I think the idea is to restrict them. So.
Thanks.
Who's in the leadership positions with the HDIC now?
So Michael Krasnick is the leader. He was also on the master plan commission. And so he's their chair. Under their new procedures, they will, their meeting in July, which I think is in 2 weeks, they are going to elect officers at that meeting. So I don't know if he'll be continuing or not. They did also appoint one of their members to the Climate Action Task Force because they're one of the groups that's has a member under that.
Well, this is probably some of the earliest intelligence the EdCom has ever had on prospective warrant articles.
Yeah. Well, Michael Krasnick is really, I think, has really worked hard to try to bring this as a group to have a positive impact on planning in Hingham. So,
and just as an aside, I probably could put this in housekeeping. I did send on a news item about Norwell's entering into a community agreement concerning marijuana production to Tom and Michelle. And perhaps it's, Rockland and Norwell now on our borders have marijuana establishments. And it may be time for Hingham to relook at that. But I digress, and Sue is here. Yes, Andy, did you have?
Can I just ask, is the bylaw about short-term rentals, is that residential or commercial?
I think their intent is residential, the Airbnb and that sort of thing is what they're thinking of. So I don't know if Airbnb is residential or commercial, or it's the commercial use of a residence. So
Brenda has a question.
Yeah, Brenda, you have your hand up.
Just a report from the Hingham Light Board meeting this morning. The first piece of information that people will be happy to hear about is that the look at the site for the new distribution station looks like it will fit what they want to fit in the space that they have. It doesn't go into any of the paved parts of the transfer station. Randy Sylvester was given that information. He hasn't responded yet, but it's looking like that will, so far it's looking like it'll go forward. Also, it does not interfere with conservation land, and it looks like it's not going to require any special legislative action in terms of infringing on wetlands. So far it's looking positive. The final report from the surveyors will be in the middle of July. The other thing that the Light Board is doing, upon the suggestion of the new Light Board member, Laura Burns, the light plant is going to make itself offer town buildings and school buildings that they will look at whether or not the properties could have solar panels, and if so, then help those entities go about the process of installing solar, being kind of the developer rather than the contractor. But the Light Plant Board agreed to that, and so that is the next initiative that they have coming. And Paul Hanyu's last day is tomorrow, so passing the torch over to Tom Morahan as of tomorrow.
So do you think there'll be a warrant article on a transfer of a discrete parcel of the transfer station to the Light Board next year?
Highly likely, yes. Right.
Okay. Gee, we're up to 4 articles already, Julie. Thanks, Brenda. Are there any other liaison reports? Dave?
I think it's probably just worth mentioning, maybe everybody does already know, but Dr. Austin has tendered his resignation. So we will have an interesting year, to say the least, next year. My understanding, and I'm happy to be corrected, is that the current intent is to have a kind of interim someone in that role. I think, I'm assuming from within the district. But I wouldn't quote me on that. And then I imagine a process is undertaken to then find a new superintendent. I will just say, the burning question I have on my mind, which I would, if anybody can answer in this call, please do, is, there was in the budget a strategic planning process for this coming year with the school department, which was part and parcel of the budget. And, needless to say, this is the bottom piece of the Jenga tower that has just been pulled out from underneath us. So we'll spend some time picking up those pieces over the next 11 months, I imagine. But that's what I know now. But if anybody has more info, feel free to throw it in.
My information is the same as yours, that there'll be an interim superintendent, identity to be determined, followed by someone that's the product of a more extensive search. And I've actually put it on our weekly call agenda with Tom and Sue to discuss both the process for the selection of the superintendents, but also the talents and characteristics that are desirable in a new superintendent, especially with respect to a sustainable budget and the kind of strategic planning process that I just mentioned. That's about all the information I have. It's really late breaking news. Andy, you've got your hand up?
That was previously for my question for Dave Elaine.
Okay, and Julie,
I'll
you've
bring
got
it
your
down.
hand up?
I'd like to give just a quick update on the Community Preservation Committee. They had a meeting a couple weeks ago, and the purpose of the meeting was to hear 2 requests for extensions of grant request agreements. So 2 years ago, there were 2 of the town meeting approved projects. When the project is approved by town meeting, then the CPC puts together a grant agreement, and it's supposed to be that the work or action is done within the 2 years. But the bells in the Memorial Tower, that project is taking a lot longer because of COVID, and there's some parts that are in England that they need to get, and so everything is just taking a long time. So that project is going to need up to 6 more months to complete the work, maybe even a little bit longer, which was approved by the Community Preservation Committee. And then the other project was the headstone restoration at the Liberty Plain Cemetery, which they just needed a little bit extra time to submit the invoices to the contractor who already did all the restoration work on the stones. And then also as part of the grant agreement, the Liberty Plain Cemetery needed to give to the town some documentation about all the headstones and the work done to date. And that has actually been delivered. So they were given about a month extension to get that in. That's it. And then they'll start receiving applications, as of August, the whole process will start again.
And Kristen, you've got your hand up?
Yeah, I sat in on last week, the Board of Water Commissioners. And I'm sure that just people saw that about the 10% rate increase, which will be coming to us for budgets for next year. So they had voted on that at that meeting. And then just some other questions came up about, are these rate increases in line with what people thought? And they said that it was, and that until they finished their cost of service study and their master plan study, there is like no guarantee that there wouldn't be a rate increase in following years. Instead of every 3 years. They can't really talk to that yet, but just to be on the lookout for the possible 10% rate increase.
Has there been any discussion about a potential future date when the Board of Water Commissioners might devolve into an elective body rather than the Board of Selectmen?
Nothing was discussed at that meeting.
Okay, all right, thanks. Any other comments in the nature of liaison reports? I'm not
Hey,
seeing
Bob,
any.
can I just ask you one quick question?
Sure.
Was your question a question, or was that, do you think that's a possibility? Because I remember when we did our work a year or 2 ago, there were some, people suggesting, oh, maybe there should be a public utility commission. It would involve HMLP and the water company. And so I just didn't know if you had any insight as to a movement in that direction, or if it was just going to be status quo and you were just curious about where things stood.
I don't have any inside information or otherwise.
Okay.
It just, as you just mentioned, it was something that was discussed in the whole lead up to the acquisition of the water company. And I think everybody was pretty much in agreement that it made sense for the Board of Selectmen, who had been neck deep in the water issues, to serve as the initial water commissioners, but there was some thought that maybe down the road at some point, once everything was up and running and things were humming, that it might be appropriate to have a separate elected board of water commissioners. So that's the only reason I asked the question.
Fair enough. Thanks.
Yes, Dave Lee.
I was just going to say, there are some people in town who are still very interested in that and are continuing to discuss and ask questions about when will that discussion take place. So I think in the community, that's a live issue among certain people.
I agree, and I think it is something that's going to be discussed in the future.
Well, and I guess
Probably
the really, sorry, go ahead, Bob.
probably not this year. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that you're right. I kind of jumped the gun. I guess there's a two-stage question. One is whether you want elected commissioners as opposed to selectmen acting as commissioners. And then maybe the Public Utility Commission question is a bigger one that subsumes questions about the light board and the sewer commission, et cetera. And that's obviously got a lot more issues to consider. So yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, that'll be a few long nights a few years from now. You and I won't be around, Dave, at least not on. Okay, and so we come to the transfer requests. Sue appeared just right at the correct moment. And Sue, if you allow me a few comments that you can correct if I err in any way.
You go for it, Bob.
The first one is that, of course, the town has to pay its bills. And so from time to time, consideration is given to, well, gee, suppose we didn't approve one of these reserve transfer requests or whatever. And the town then ends up with an unpaid bill. As I understand it, and what happened a few years ago at town meeting is you end up with an article for the town to vote on the payment of a bill with instructions that basically say, you have to approve this. Did I get that right, Sue?
You did, actually.
I
and it-
had that article.
Unfortunately, these bills have already been paid. So what will happen if these reserve fund transfers are not approved? We will get dinged by DOR for deficit spending, and it will go against our free cash.
So I just wanted people to be aware of, especially our newer members, of the consequences of taking a stand on saying, we're not going to approve this. Everybody
And
has
Sue would
their
be
own
very unhappy.
And
And that's all you need to know.
and secondly, I believe the procedure we followed last year with these was basically what we've done on the budget, that if somebody wants to put a hold for further discussion or a separate vote on a particular transfer, whether it's a reserve fund transfer and interdepartmental transfer or intradepartmental transfer, that we will take up that matter separately. Otherwise, we will vote collectively on all the transfer items that have not been held. So if that makes sense to everybody as a procedure, as opposed to 12 roll call votes, that's the way I'd propose to proceed. Victor?
So Bob, when we come to each of these, though, there'll be a discussion and an explanation of what they are, or is that only if someone holds it?
Oh, no, I think there should be a discussion and explanation of what they are prior to anyone making a decision for a hold on for a separate vote. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sounds good.
Okay. So, with that, do you want to present these, Sue?
I certainly will be happy to. Okay, I just want to go over the first page, which is a recap page for everybody that is new, that hasn't been through this before. The FY21 appropriation for the reserve fund was $629,100. Article 11 in the 21 town meeting, we asked for and were approved to transfer from FY22 to FY21's reserve fund of $588,884. That balance was about $1.2 million. On 5/4, we voted on a reserve fund transfer for the property and liability for $353,047, which leaves us a balance as of right now of $864,937. There are 4 reserve fund transfers. I'll go over each one, and if anybody has any questions, I will stop. The first one is legal. The amount requested is $665,185. In your packet, there is a chart of all the expenses broken up into category for the legal expenses. Just to let you know, the COVID and the Ware River, we will be reimbursed, but probably not until next fiscal year. So that's why we're asking for the total for the reserve fund for right now. When we do get reimbursed, it will go straight to fund balance. I don't know if anybody has specific questions on legal, or do you want me just to keep going?
No, are there any questions or discussion on the legal transfer?
So,
Victor?
so just question. So when at town meeting, we had an estimate that was actually, other than the COVID amount, the others are all sort of significantly higher than what we had estimated back, around town meeting time. Were there anything in particular that sort of,
Well, when we did town meeting, the schedule that you got was what we spent as of that date.
Okay.
Though what you have now is the May and June bills added in.
Okay, and was there one particular litigation that has caused the bulk of the litigation costs, or?
There were there were several litigations during the year. I do not know. I don't have the breakdown.
Do you know what the nature of the litigation was? I mean, the type of.
Well, Wampin is one of them.
Say that again?
Wampin. The lady who has several different last names. She's ongoing with the affordable housing on Main Street, I believe. That's ongoing. There were a few other litigations, Victor. Unfortunately, it's not my budget, so I don't know exactly what those are for.
One of them, Victor, was the personnel matter where we did the transfer that related to the coverage issue that Kerry Ryan was involved in. And I don't know the number that was specifically attributable to that, but it was a complex matter.
Andy?
Did I understand you to say that these are fees incurred since town meeting?
No, that's for the whole year.
Oh. And what's the delta between town meeting and now? Do you know?
No, I don't.
It's about, at town meeting, the estimate, Andy, was 747. So now it's
Just about 180. Okay. Thank
Any
you.
other questions or
So,
discussion
Victor,
on
the
legal?
747, wasn't that for the reserve fund transfer?
That's what I'm looking at, the chart you gave me for the legal costs broken down by each of these categories with a grand total of 747,009.99.
Okay.
Other questions or discussion on legal? Does anyone want to hold this for a separate vote?
The only, I don't want to hold it. I just want, who oversees this? Is it the town manager?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Okay, why don't you continue on then, Sue?
Okay, the second one is for town meeting. The request is for $45,000. And this is because we had, first of all, we had a special town meeting. Some of this will be reimbursed by COVID, but COVID had special rules for reimbursable expenses. And what we have to do is basically find the delta between what we would have spent on a town meeting and what we actually had to spend due to COVID. So we haven't been able to get that done quite yet. Plus we had a special town meeting that we did not have in the budget. So we are requesting $45,000.
Sue, do
Questions
you
or
know,
discussion? Go
just
ahead,
one
Dave.
quick question. Sue, do you off the top of your head know, did we calculate the incremental COVID related expenses from June 2020 town meeting? I mean, just ballpark what the, what that COVID amount was?
I don't know off the top of my head, but I know that it was significant because we did have the indoor already, just in case we had to go indoors. This June or May or whenever we had town meeting, they did not even set up indoors. So,
Okay,
and anything we get for FY20 will go to fund balance directly.
thanks.
Other questions or discussion on the town meeting? I don't see
Okay.
any. Does anyone want to hold this for a separate vote? I don't see anyone making such a request.
And the next one is for snow and ice. The amount requested is $11,597. In past years, you've seen it go up to over $1 million for a request, and you've seen that some years we have turned back money in snow and ice. $11,597 is a very little amount to ask for the past year.
Questions or discussion? I see none. Anyone want a separate vote? I see none.
Okay, the last reserve fund transfer is for emergency water service in the amount of $11,277 for everybody's, just to let you know, this is a quarterly bill that we receive to keep water in the hydrants, the fire hydrants throughout the whole town. We do not get billed for if we use the water or for flushing or whatever. This is a quarterly bill that we get. And how I determine the budget is when it's budget season time, the last quarter bill that we have received and paid for, I multiply by 4, and that's the next year's budget. Unfortunately, in between that and town meeting, Aquarian had a rate increase in 2019. So this is the delta between the quarterly bills and the rate increase.
Questions or discussion? I see none. Anyone want a separate vote? I see none.
Okay, now we're down to interdepartment transfers. Interdepartment transfers are transfers between two different departments. Mass state law says we can do this in the last 2 months of the year. The first one is from group insurance. The amount requested is $1,146, and it is to go to human resource part-time salaries. The benefits coordinator was asked to work extra hours during the open enrollment period. Due to the pandemic, it was all, we weren't in the building, so she had to use some extra hours. And I came from group insurance because benefits coordinator is health insurance. So we decided that's where it should come from.
Any discussion? Any request for a separate vote? I see none.
And the other interdepartment transfer is $60,000 coming from DPW salaries, and it is going to the transfer station expenses for trash. And the reason why is there was an increase not anticipated in trash disposal costs due to the new contract with CMAS effective January 2021.
Any discussion, any requests for a separate vote?
Nope,
Dave, go
that's
ahead.
question.
Not a separate vote, just a question. Sue, is that adjustment reflected then in the FY22 budget? I mean, do we feel good about what we approved for the transfer station expenses,
I believe
given the
so, yes.
CMAS? Okay,
Yes.
thanks.
Any further discussion? Any requests for separate vote? I see none.
Okay, intra-department transfers, transfers within a department from salaries to expenses or expenses up to salaries. The first one is community planning. The amount requested is $30,000, and it is going from the community planning department head salary account to the community planning consultant services line item. This is to pay for the consultants' help while restructuring the department. As you know, that the community planning director resigned in January, and we were backfilling it with a part-time consultant.
Any discussion, any requests for a separate vote? I see none.
The next one is the police department. The amount requested is $16,000. It is coming from police salary account to the police R&M vehicles account. And this is for vehicle maintenance costs exceeded estimates due to keeping current cruisers longer. And additionally, transition to Ford hybrid options. The equipment did not transfer from older body style.
Any discussion among the AdCom? I see that Chief Jones is with us. Chief, did you want to offer any comments?
Evening, Bob. Thanks. No, just Sue pretty much covered it, but it was, when we went with a hybrid option this year, it pushed off our ability to get the new vehicles as we had previously ordered the standard model. So it pushed out a little further, and therefore we had to keep our current vehicles longer, which raised the maintenance cost. Additionally, just the transfer of some equipment that we had anticipated being able to be transferred was not able to be transferred. So we had to work around that a little bit. So that caused the increase in the equipment budget.
Thank you, Chief. Any questions or discussion from the AdCom? Dave Lee?
Yeah, I just would like to commend the chief for this move to hybrid vehicles. I think that's a wonderful climate action move, and so I just want to commend him for making that.
Thanks very much, Dave. And we've seen an increase in fuel savings already, so it's already noticeable. We only had them a couple months, so looking forward to see what a full year does with them.
Great.
Great, thanks, Chief. Any
Thank
further
you.
discussion? Any request for a separate vote? I see none. And the last item,
The very last one is treasurer collector, transfer from part-time salaries to the expense for postage. And the reason why is during the pandemic, when the town hall was closed, they had to mail all the payroll checks and the direct deposits throughout the pandemic. The treasurer collector's office had absorbed 90% of that cost, but she was just shy of $250.
any discussion, any request for a separate vote? I see none. So I would entertain a motion to approve the reserve fund transfers, the interdepartmental transfers, and the intradepartmental transfers as outlined by Sue Nickerson.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Then we come to vote. Julie,
Aye.
Dave,
Aye.
Tina,
Aye.
Kristen,
Aye.
Eveline,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Victor,
Aye.
Libby,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Al.
Aye.
I almost called on you, Sue. George Dennis,
Aye.
Aaron.
Aye.
All right, it's a unanimous vote.
I
Hey,
thank
Bob,
you
can I-
very much.
Can I
Thank you,
just say
Sue.
one thing, Bob?
Yes.
Sue, I just want to say thanks. I mean, I'm always kind of amazed in a 9-figure budget that we have 6-figure reserve fund transfers. So really thanks to you and everybody who works so hard on these budgets, because it's a miracle that these things are in this order of magnitude. And so it's not unnoticed.
Thank you. And Mother Nature helped with snow and ice, I'll tell you.
Well, nice work with that too.
She listens sometimes.
To you, I bet she does. Exactly.
Tell her to
Big
make it
amen.
cooler.
Oh,
Big amen to those comments. You got lots of thumbs up and claps. I'm going to skip over housekeeping items for a moment and ask if there are any matters not anticipated within 48 hours. I don't see any.
Libby has her hand up.
Libby, no, she's.
Oh, I'm
that's-
trying to get rid of my
She's a
class.
plotting, that's an applaud emoji for you, Sue.
Oh, I'm sorry. It looked like a hand raise.
It was
No,
an,
no, no.
it was an extended clap.
Oh, thank you, Libby.
And I know we've got a Zoom meeting after this, but I did want to offer a few valedictory comments as my last official act as chair. I was thinking today on how, for the whole time I've been on the AdCom, invariably almost any email coming concerning AdCom business starts with the phrase, "Dear colleagues." And I think that this group has been one of the best assemblages of colleagues that I've had the honor to work with in any context in my lifetime. And I think that our deliberations have been marked by collegiality. And so I just want to offer some thanks, as Dave has done already, to Sue Nickerson, our town liaison, with whom we could not function and who has been an invariable support and help to me. I'd like to compliment our incoming class. I think the four of you have devoted extensive time and thought and real serious consideration about the AdCom matters that have come before us and have been assigned to you. So thank you for all your good work. I think you'll be examples to our incoming class next year, and are probably in as good a position as anyone to sympathize with them about the process of being new and learning some of the arcane ins and outs of the advisory committee. The second cohort I'd like to thank are our veterans. I don't want to call you NCOs, but you're the people that know how things work and how you have knuckled down this year to accomplish the review of a lot of things, the drafting of a lot of things, the consideration of things before the AdCom is reflected in the fact that we got a perfect score at the town meeting this year. That preparation all paid off. And again, I couldn't have a better group of colleagues. And I'd like to offer some comments to those who have served so well and who will not be with us next year. And I don't know if some of you know, is it okay for me to speak on this, Libby?
Yes.
Libby has decided that she will not be with us on the AdCom next year. She has many, many demands on her time. And she has been a good and faithful servant of the advisory committee over the last 4 years. And she's been someone that I have watched and admired in attending capital outlay committees. Libby probably knows as much about capital outlay as anybody in the town. And she has been a great servant of the town, capital outlay, and the advisory committee. And now don't get me tearful, Sue. You know, I'm an Irishman. I've been known to cry. And when I've had discussions with Mike Puzo about the nature and qualities of people that I would like to see appointed to the AdCom, Libby has been one of my examples of, you know, somebody that probably knows John Ferris's spreadsheets better than John does. I sent an email to Libby earlier today about she's one of the few people that can go toe to toe with John Ferris on all of his line items. So Libby, we will miss you, and we appreciate your great service to the AdCom. And next I come to Erin, someone else whom I have always thought, you know, the attention of detail that you have brought to every assignment you've had, and the thoughtfulness and the taking of issues to a next level, and asking the extra questions, and you know, coming to such great recommendations for the town. You've been an exceptional servant of the AdCom. And of course, you will forever be known as the article slayer. And I don't know if your performance in that regard can be repeated. So it's been tremendous working with you. Every best wish in your endeavors, and to you, Libby, and your endeavors. You know, you have been true colleagues. And Victor, I couldn't have had a better AdCom chair to try to follow in your footsteps. You've been my guardian angel all year. You're someone whose knowledge and judgment I have always thought was rock solid. I think you embody the best traditions of the AdCom, and you will be missed. We hope that we see all of you in future town service. You're just exceptional individuals. And so I understand that a speech should never stand between the speech and the end of the meeting. So I'm going to conclude my comments there and pass the torch to Julie, although she has given me instructions that I have this box suitably decorated. Gift number one, please open before adjourning our regular AdCom meeting tonight. So Julie, I will follow your instruction as the chair. I got to get the Scotch tape off. And there it is.
Hey.
At long last, a gavel. Oh, gee, it broke. No, I'm only kidding. And it's inscribed, Robert A. Curley Jr., AdCom Chair, Town of Hingham 2020, 2021, the COVID years. So this will hold a special place in my family room or office, Julie. So thank you, and everyone else who participated in the gavel. I thank you very much. So I will leave off there unless anyone else has something to offer at this point. I'd accept a motion to adjourn to our next Zoom meeting.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Julie?
Aye.
Dave? Tina,
Aye.
Kristen? You're on mute.
Aye.
Daveline,
Aye.
Brenda,
Aye.
Victor,
Aye.
Libby,
Aye.
Andy,
Aye.
Al,
Aye.
George Stannis.
Aye.
I don't know why I called you by your both names. I'm just reading, I'm reading your, Aaron.
Aye.
All right, we stand adjourned.